see. So just a heads up to our public visiting with us. We'll give you a few minutes to populate. Unfortunately, we've had a scheduling issue and we will not have a quorum tonight, which also means we will not be able to actually hold the meeting. What we will do is staff will provide some updates, just general updates to the community, and we will have to reschedule this meeting. Likely just push everything to the September 28th meeting. Scheduling special meetings is pretty complicated and difficult to do. We'll see what items need more urgent attention, and we'll determine if we need to do a special meeting, but I'm not inclined to do that unless it's necessary. So I apologize to the public that's joined us tonight, and to the commissioners they're able to make it. It's frustrating to not be able to do our business. And we need to, if you know people that are interested in serving on the commission, please let them know that there are vacancies and we'd like to fill them, and that will help us ensure we always have a quorum. So again, tonight's meeting is canceled, pending some of the scheduling issue works out and we're able to get a third commissioner, but that is highly unlikely. And so we'll just be providing some public updates.
Hey, Matthew, I heard from a third commissioner that can join the meeting, it sounds like.
Say that one more time.
I heard from a third commissioner that can join the meeting just now.
Oh, great. Are they joining now?
They need a link sent to them, but they can join, yes.
Okay, which commissioner is it?
It is Paulette Eisen.
Okay, Maggie can, actually what I'll do is just send, I'll just email her the link right now.
I just resent it as well, the panelists.
Okay. So tonight's meeting will not be canceled. It is just delayed by a few minutes, which is great. Thank you, Commissioner Eisen. Oh, there she is. Hello, hello. Can you hear us, Commissioner Eisen? I think you're on mute.
There we go.
There we go. Thank you for joining us tonight.
All righty.
Okay. Maggie, do your stuff.
All right, we will do a roll call. Commissioner Eisen?
Here.
Vice Chair Eisen?
Here.
Chair Stamper?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, our first item tonight is approval of minutes. These are for the May regular meeting and the August special meeting. And hopefully you've been able to take a look at those.
I looked through them because I wasn't at the last meeting. So thank you for doing it. I make a motion to approve the minutes.
I second the motion.
Okay, we'll do another roll call. Commissioner Eisen?
Yes.
Vice Chair Eisen?
Yes.
And Chair Stamper?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Any announcements or correspondence from the commissioners? I don't have any special announcements. We've got lots of updates tonight. So great. We'll jump to that. So our first item under staff informational reports is city council updates. We've had to had a couple of a special meeting and canceled meetings. So our updates go back to June. And I'll try to move through them quickly. Again, I'm only covering items that are pertinent to this commission. In early June, we actually provided a draft license agreement with the Coastside Land Trust for a trail project that they're working on in the Wavecrest area. So that's the area just south or just north of Redondo Beach Road and including Redondo Beach Road. They're applying for grants. And so we put together a draft agreement with them to help them apply for grants. If they receive the grants to do construction, we'll finalize that agreement with them. And it could be a really exciting project. It includes more parking, access to the beach. It really improves that area. So great work by one of our community partners. The Carter Park naming and donation policy was also approved. We worked with Commissioner Eisen as our solo subcommittee, and I think we've got a great policy. You'll get an update on that project tonight. Not a lot of work has gone into doing outreach and trying to drum up donations. There's some other work we're doing first, and John Gowdy will provide an update on that later tonight. On June 21st, the Harbor District gave a presentation on the Surfers Beach pilot sand replenishment project. This is a project that they hope to do on a regular basis where they will dredge excess sand that accumulates within the harbor and move it to Surfers Beach where it belongs. The harbor creates it modifies wave activity and sand movement. And the hope is that it'll improve the harbor and increase the size of Surfers Beach and the health of it and help with erosion. So really exciting project, and we were grateful to have an update on that. Also on the 21st, the council adopted the annual budget, which includes capital projects for parks and several programs that affect parks. On July 19th, the youth rep for the BPAC was appointed, and John can share details on that a little later. On August 3rd, we had a special meeting with the council to review the Smithfield Master Plan that was reviewed and commented on by you all previously. Lots of great support, good comments, and ultimately was approved, and we're moving forward with additional work to get us to the permitting stage of that project, which will get us in a position to pursue grants. The donor that has come forward can help us with a phase of the project, and Little League will be going after funding as well to do some of the improvements. On August 16th, last Tuesday, the Pumpkin Festival mural was approved. Your recommendation was approved by the council. I'll also share that last night it was presented to the Planning Commission for compliance with the sign ordinance that was approved there. And we'll be moving forward with that in the next week or two. Very excited about that. I'll also share, it doesn't pertain to this commission because it's on private property, but the wall behind, on the back of MacDutra to the left of the stage, if you're facing the stage, Seacrest School worked with that property owner and has developed a plan for a sea life mural, very vibrant, very colorful. That also went to Planning Commission last night for approval. It's been through the Architectural Advisory Committee. They approved it, and so they'll be moving forward with that. So within the next couple of months, we're going to have a whole bunch of really great public art downtown. It's really exciting, very coincidental that it came on the same night, but really it was a great meeting and really fun to be part of that last night. Public Works also provided an update on the transportation, circulation, and mobility plan that's under the council's priorities for this year. That plan includes a lot of trail and bicycle access and other modes of transportation access, which I know are very important to this commission. We received a report on sea level rise at down near the Ritz-Carlton and the south end of the city limits. The city has a study that was already done previously for the area north of that. That area was included in a county study that was commissioned, but we felt like the detail for that portion of the city was not sufficient. And so we commissioned our own study, and it's under review right now. And John can share where you can find that. And then it'll come back to the council for adoption in the future. What's mostly pertinent to that is the report shows that in the future, the golf facilities, which are recreational, could be affected by erosion, and parts of the coastal trail, which is really crucial. There's a portion of it that moves very close to the cliffs, and If lost, we would have to do some major work to realign that. So very important, again, pertinent to this commission. The other exciting thing for me that night was the council appointed me city manager. It's a permanent appointment, so I will be the city manager for at least the next 3 years. I'm extremely excited about this opportunity to work with the team and support the team, and all the support from the community has been just unbelievable. So it's a really, I'm in a dream situation right now. We got a lot of hard work to do, but I'm excited to carry that forward. Along with that, I will share that we announced to staff today that John Dowdy, our Public Works Director, has been appointed to our interim assistant city manager position. He's going to be supporting me during this transitional period, taking on some new projects that I think he's really excited about. He'll be working with Eddie and the rec team and this commission, and we're just excited to have his expertise and experience on staff. Of course, Maz Bozerginia, who's here, our city engineer, will obviously be able to provide some additional leadership to the Public Works team. This is kind of an all hands on deck time period for the city, and I appreciate it. Eddie will also be carrying some extra load, and we're excited to have him support us more in that way. The final meeting to share was on Friday morning, the 19th. We had a special meeting to review and adopt something related to the elections, and that is the election period has ended for candidates, and the districts that include Councilmember Brownstone and Councilmember Penrose, there were no qualified other additional candidates there. And so they have been now appointed by the council to another 4-year term rather than spending time and money on an additional election for them. District 4, which includes the south end of town, including the Ocean Colony and Kenyatta Cove, has 3 qualified candidates. Debbie Reddick, our existing mayor, Bill Balson, and David Ablovi are all running. And so there will be voting and election there. Of course, all residents of the city will have the opportunity to vote on any other issues and measures that come forward. And we'll be doing a lot of outreach and education to the community. If you have questions about what district you're in, if you go to our city website, right on the front page, there's information about the election. If you click on that and then click on the link for the redistricting process, there's an interactive map you can go to, and it's like a Google map, so you can find every street and what district it's in. It's very helpful. So that's my city council updates. I apologize, that was a lot, but we had several months to catch up on, and lots of really great stuff to share. So any questions or comments on that?
Hey, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have a comment. First of all, yes, congratulations, both Matt and John. And let's sort of go back to this Seacrest mural.
Yes.
Have you seen it? What was the agreement that you made with this entity? How long is it going to be there? How do you think it's going to look compared to the other one? We need more here. Okay.
Yeah. Well, and the reason I didn't provide more is that it is not a city project. It is not on city property. This is a private art project.
Okay.
That's why it didn't come through the commission. So
right.
It has to go through the Planning Commission and the Architectural Advisory Committee as part of the sign ordinance. And that's what happened last night. If you go to our website and click on the packet for last night's Planning Commission, I believe there is a picture.
Okay, let me just one thing.
Mm-hmm.
What did we put? Did we put anything in our ordinance, in our not ordinance, in our public art policy about other situations like this, where it's public art, but it's not, connected directly with the city? Did we do anything, and should that be a consideration if we did not do anything?
We did not. This is covered under the sign ordinance. It's in our planning code. I'm happy to have a conversation with Jill Ekus to see if it's even appropriate for us to try to address it somewhere else. The process is in place. Like I said, there's the Architectural Advisory Committee that does the aesthetic review and the appropriateness for the location. And then the Planning Commission determines if it's in compliance with the sign code. So I'll have that conversation with her. And if it's something we feel like we could provide some information or additional process in our policy, we would bring that back to this group to talk about.
I'm curious, you know, how other cities deal with it, because, you know, it could be something where you have public art that, and then someone else's art, and it's like both, it just really, instead of enhancing, it clashes.
Yeah.
And so how does the city deal with that? Do they have anything in their own public art policy? It's worth
I can say that in the other art policies we reviewed, it was not addressed anywhere. So
it sounds though like it is part of the like the city, when you have a project that's on private land, there is an architectural review process, and that is how the city deals with any type of thing that is in the privately owned that the public will see. It's like how they previously have said things like, if you want to build a house, it needs to be not this color. And this is the same thing. So I don't know that I agree that this is part of the Parks and Rec committee to deal with private, like the way private property looks. But it's certainly like a flag that, oh, we're putting up a public mural across from a private mural is maybe worth mentioning. But I don't know that an approval process needs to be.
Here's what I'll say. We've kind of already gone past the point of how much conversation we should be having on that topic, since it's not an agendized item. But I will have a conversation with with Jill Ekus, and if there's any opportunity for us to discuss it in the future, we'll bring it forward to you.
Okay. Good.
Any other comments or questions on any of the items that I shared?
Okay, time for recreation updates. All right, good evening, everyone. Like Matthew mentioned, it's been since June since we've given some updates, so I also have a few for you. I'll start with our security camera project. As you may remember, in February, we brought that to the commission to let them look over our approved citywide camera use policy. And at that point, we began looking for the equipment and supplies to start implementing these cameras here around the community center and the skate park. We would have liked to tell you that it's completely finished today. Unfortunately, due to supply chain issues and our fifth and final camera needing to be placed in an odd and tough to get to location, we're almost there. We have one more camera to install, and then we will be owners of a brand new state-of-the-art security system here at the community center and the skate park. So we'll let you know hopefully next month that it's completed, but I just wanted to fill you in on that. The Boys and Girls Club Event Center usage MOU. If we would have met in June, I would have announced then that our extension of that MOU into the summer had been approved for the months of June, July, and August. So we've now almost completed that summer stay there at the event center. And I did ask the district and the Boys and Girls Club, are we allowed to continue this usage? And the consensus was that we have a good thing going and they want to keep that momentum. So they've approved us from here moving forward. Pretty good news. So we'll continue to be using the event center on Sundays for recreation. And that allows us kind of to open the door and start having a larger conversation about a possible aquatics residency next spring and summer. So Matthew and I have talked about it a little bit, and we think the best course of action is start to develop a plan for next spring and summer, our wish list of usage for the aquatic facility at the high school. So that's definitely a priority here in the recreation department. And I know it's also a priority for the commission. So we're working on that, and hopefully we'll see some recreation happen at the high school next summer. Moving on to some new events that we had. I think I mentioned probably a year or two ago that we had reached out to the community and asked, what are some ideas of some recreation programs, leagues, and activities that they might be interested in? And something that was funny and unique, but a lot of people spoke to it was a lot of people wanted a kickball league. So we said, okay, that's something that, we have some time and staff and the bandwidth, we can try to pull that off. Well, so we did. We held a 3-month, 1 weekend each month kickball tournament, and we set the parameters so that we could accept 6 teams at most. Each month we sold out and filled our league. So it was definitely, I feel, well received by the community, and it accompanies our other programs, softball and things like that. Well, so we had a really good season, something that we want to continue to do year after year and just make it a mainstay here in the spring months. So definitely a great event. Also, I would say in March, the California Amateur Skateboarding League reached out to us. They host amateur skateboarding competitions throughout the Bay, Berkeley, Pacifica, San Leandro, and they had their sights set on Half Moon Bay. And they reached out and asked if that was something that we'd be interested in partnering with them on to host. And of course, we wanted to. Matthew, huge skateboarder, so we were all in. Looking at the other cities that deal with this group and what their partnership looks like, really the extent of the partnership is the city would allow this group to use their skate parks for this event. And that was the extent of the partnership. But we wanted to have a larger hand in this and be kind of a larger partner in the event. So what we did was we rented out some bleachers so that we had some spectator seating next to the skate park, and myself and the recreation staff came down for that event. It was on August the 6th, Saturday, and we fed all the families chili cheese dogs and lunch and had a great time. And we've had a lot of feedback from that event, and a lot of people are excited for it to continue and to come back again. Even the group, the California Amateur Skateboarding League, has already asked us if it's okay if they come back maybe 2 times each year. So it's really exciting to start something new and to see we had 60 participants in that event. So for a first time event with a small registration fee, it's a pretty impressive number. So we're excited about it. I don't know if you saw any of the coverage that was in the Half Moon Bay Review or on HMB radio, but it was promoted and covered, and it was a really great event. Moving on, we are 3 weeks into our adult softball league. Again, when I first started here, the absence of the softball league was a huge deal for the community and something that they wanted to see kind of reinstated and reestablished. So it's our 3rd season doing it, and we're full completely. We have 16 teams throughout the men's league and the co-ed league. So again, we're about 3 weeks into a 10-week session on that. So super successful. We're happy. Concerts in the Park. We are into this week will be our final Concerts in the Park. We've done a lot of promotion in the paper and social media with those events, and this is our final one. Andy Z's Concert for Kids this Saturday. So if you're around, make sure you stop by and check it out. Summer's End, obviously next month, and we'll cover that a little bit later. And finally, the recreation department has a full-time recreation leader recruitment currently open. That's a full-time benefited position. I thought it was worth mentioning here, just in case any of our commissioners or audience members know someone that might be a great fit. We highly encourage them to apply on CalOps. So unless there's any questions, that's all I have tonight.
I'll just share that recruitment's happening. We unfortunately lost Taylor Cowan. I'm sure many of you got to know him through programs, and he's no longer working for the city. So we're taking advantage of the opportunity to try to get a really strong local candidate, ideally a local candidate. So again, if you know people in town, bilingual Spanish would be preferred. And really, we want to get a good pool of candidates as well. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I just wondered, how do you decide what adult leagues to do?
Hillary, for the kickball, there was 3 people that made the suggestion of kickball, but it wasn't until we saw the comments on those posts that a lot of people were like, oh, that'd be great, or share it with somebody or tag somebody else. And we said, okay, there's about 20 people just in this Facebook string alone that are interested. Let's try it. And it's the costs are really low for something like that. That's something that the recreation department, we acted as the referees or the umps for it. We bought a couple legitimate official kickball association kickballs, and that was it. We lined the field the same we would for softball, but the largest overhead in something like that is the ump or the ref, and we didn't have that that cost. So it was really a small fee, a $50 fee per team, and they get 2 games for each day. So it wasn't a huge league, a huge tournament, but it was just something to get folks out and outside and enjoy Smith Field. These are the folks that I assumed they would be more like the softball folks, but really it was folks that were interested in no competition, just fun. And so that's how we decided. But really, Hillary, we'll try anything once that people seem to want.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, I know that a couple of years ago, there was a lot of, they were trying to do a lot of things to support kind of like young adult soccer games and pickup soccer. And just like hearing you say that the city ran a league, I can imagine with the soccer presence in the community of like league, small-sided soccer games, or some kind of small adult league where the team sizes maybe are smaller, could be a really interesting thing. And I feel like the soccer club has so much on its plate, at least if it still does, like when I was on the board. The city running something like that would probably be really a cool thing. I don't know how it would like conflict if we're now having even more field problems, like practice space problems or not, for the existing teams, but I would be really curious about that. And it just makes me think of all of the different sports in the community having other opportunities to have like small young adult leagues and adult leagues, maybe like small-sided.
Agreed. And it's this again. We just want to experiment and try things, and I agree with you. I think soccer would be very well received in this community. We try to fill gaps. If I'm speaking to this, and we don't want to be redundant. We don't want to compete with like the existing AYSO and the Half Moon Bay Soccer Club. So the idea is that we find those places that need us, that don't already have services there and opportunities for folks. But I think you're right. I think the smaller 3-on-3, like there's other things that aren't being offered out here, like what you mentioned, maybe is a good place that we could fill in, I think.
Cool. Okay. Yeah.
Eddie, I just want to add, I watched a whole segment that they did on a news show about a week ago about the fastest growing sport in America. Do you know what it is?
Is it pickleball?
It is pickleball.
I'm going to go buy a lottery ticket right now.
And, right now, we really kind of have geared any pickleball activity towards the senior community for the most part. But pickleball, I was recently with Adam, we were in Bend, Oregon, in that area, and the pickleball courts galore, and families, every age group playing on the pickleball courts. And that's the beauty of pickleball. And we have not gotten that happening at all with with kids, okay? We haven't seen kids playing pickleball in Half Moon Bay. And yet it's a sport that, as I say, it's every age group. My grandsons loved it. They played when we were there. Just, really, really great stuff. So I think we have to think about that. As I say, it is called the fastest growing sport in America. And it's because it hits all the age groups. And that's something I think we have to give some real consideration to.
Absolutely. And I've talked to David Aliamos from the Boys and Girls Club, and he told me they actually do integrate pickleball now into, you know, their curriculum for PE and physical education. So that's good.
Right.
The kids
Yeah.
are getting some instruction, some fundamentals. And what you're saying is an opportunity through us to have them all come together, kids and families. So we have kind of remedied that a little bit. So what we do, Paulette, 4 days out of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, we have 3 hours here that we're open for pickleball. But like you said, the kids are in school.
The kids are in school, right?
Yep. So the option for them is to play on Sundays. And Sundays, not only are we using the event center, but we have access to the tennis courts behind the event center. So we have 4 hours of pickleball that we offer on Sundays. And a lot of the folks that still work during the week aren't available to come here, same as the kids in school. So they come on Sundays. They have more time, more courts to play. It's outdoors. So I think in lieu of not being able to offer evening.
So Sunday, Ted Adcock, or are you saying the event center? I wasn't clear about where you're talking, or is it just the courts behind the event center and Ted Adcock?
So we 5 days out of the week, we offer pickleball. 4 of those days are in the middle of the day here at the community center. The 5th day is on Sunday, and it's the courts behind the event center. So we have access to the event center itself, where we host the drop-in basketball, and then pickleballers can come play outside too. So that's the one opportunity where the parents and grandparents and kids could play pickleball together.
Right. So that needs to be kind of like known.
Okay.
You know,
Gotcha.
So that information, that family day, Sundays, pickleball, bring the kids, or, you know, kids come down, whatever, that needs to be like a known thing, because it's a lot of fun.
It is. I will do that, Paula. You're right too. We'll push it and let folks know it's a good day to, you know, families come together, and I think it's funny because a lot of kids are learning it because they're learning at school, but their parents don't really know about it. They're still working. They haven't, you know, so it could be a great opportunity.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Paulette.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's all I have for rec updates.
Okay, John.
Oh golly, I've now lost my share. Oh, I'm loving life. Let me see if I can grab it. I'm sorry. I can never see it until I can see it.
While you're doing that, I just wanted to say, I skipped over public comment. That was totally inadvertent. I apologize. So after John's report before the regular agenda, we'll take any general.
Why don't you just do it? Why don't you do public comment now?
Okay. It might not buy you very much time, John.
Buy me time.
Maggie, do any of our, so now would be the time for public comment. Any items that are not on the agenda that people would like to comment on or address. Now would be the time to raise your hand. Oh, there we go.
All right.
And I'll remind folks, this is not, it's for any items that are not on the agenda tonight.
Okay. Erin, go ahead. The floor is yours.
I just wanted to, my name is Erin Tormey, sorry. I live in the unincorporated part of Half Moon Bay, and I'm actually wanting to just respond to what was just said around pickleball and community members not knowing particularly about certain kinds of aspects of what are offered. And I just wanted to remind all y'all that anytime you would like to get that information out to the public via the farmers market and or the Make It Main Street events. Please reach out to me, get me flyers, get us programs. We always have a community event table that lets people in the community know about what's going on there. We average about 1,750 individuals primarily from the Coastside community every single Saturday right there. So just wanted to make that offer while I had a second, and hopefully, John, that gave you time to find your share.
Thank you, Erin.
I'm,
Yes, perfect. Erin, great comment. Thank you. And perfect. It looks like it bought us just the right amount of time.
You got it, John.
do we have it?
You got it.
Beautiful. Good job, John. We're all so proud of you.
Victory. Victory is mine. And I would be remiss if I didn't, and thank you, Erin. I would be remiss if I didn't also say that I think Maggie and Moz are both veterans of your kickball league. And I think Moz actually ended up with a bum leg out of it from kicking too hard, I believe. But I know they enjoyed it, and I'm sure they would share privately off that point the fun that they had. And second place, I think, for that weekend. So excellent job. So thank you, members, chair and members. It's a pleasure to be here. Moz and I are going to tag team a little bit on this. I'm going to take the first part of this, and then I'm going to turn over to Moz to talk about the Poplar Parallel Trail. I know that's on folks' minds, so we'll talk a little bit about what's going on there. But let me first talk about somewhat happier items here, I think, on that one. So I'll first mention just on parks projects, and I'm going to go through these pretty quickly, but we're excited. Ocean View Park just got everything done last week. And the new equipment is in. The ADA 5R was completed last week and inserted in there. All the rubberized surfaces in. And we hope that you have received your invites, commission members particularly, but the public as well, for the August 31, 3:30 p.m. Ribbon cutting ceremony. And if you haven't, you should be receiving that invite. And we hope that any and all of you can attend and participate. It'll be a short event, but we're hoping for the kids to be there. We know they will. We were out there last week, and it was during the school day, and the younger ones were all out there, and they are absolutely having a blast with the new equipment. So I'm really excited, really proud of our staff and Todd Seeley and the rest of our maintenance staff who helped put that together and make sure that happens. So I know it was delayed. We had supply chain issues, and it literally was on the slow boat from China, the equipment, for it seemed like months and months, but it was about a year from when we ordered the equipment to when it was dropped and delivered, and it was installed within literally a week of actually being dropped in. And so we're excited by that. For works in progress, happy to report that we are working on Frenchman's Creek Park Phase 2. And Phase 2, if you recall, is basically looking at a swing set, also looking at improvements to parking, improvements to some furnishings, and signage, and just kind of cleaning up and also improving the turfed area there adjacent to the playground equipment. So I have Gates and Associates working on the landscape architecture and landscape plans work with this deal and conceptual. And yes, we will have part of that program includes coming back to the Parks and Rec Commission and doing at least one pop-up with the community out at the park to bring them back up. This is something that the community had said they wanted, but we want to give another chance to make sure that this is in alignment there. We're working on finalizing the civil engineering scope and professional services agreement for that. And we're working toward first the CDP approval, which the coastal development permit, which we anticipate late winter, which would allow us to be constructing this hopefully spring, summer 2023. So I'm very excited about this. We dedicated our Prop 68 dedicated funds to this project. Thank you, Matthew, and your folks for seeing this as a critical project. And so we're thrilled with this, and I'm hopeful that we can even integrate in the piece of the park that's to the little further east by Keaton Airhands driveway for those who've been out there, and try to include some picnic benches and access and ADA accessibility there. But we're at least going to design it and be able to come back and work on that. Smithfield Park, I think Matthew mentioned it, but the master plan was accepted by the council. The next steps in that is to start working on 35% design and environmental work. So we're looking to come back on September 20th with professional services agreements that cover civil engineering, as well as, again, architectural and basic planning, design, environmental work. So we can get to that point of 35% design and coastal development permit issuance phase. Included at this point is we're also looking at civil design of the Wave Crest water main extension. And as I think most of you are aware, we serve the entire Smithfield with a 2-inch PVC pipe that runs along the edge of the road that's been there for years and years and years. We do not get adequate service pressure there. Frankly, it probably doesn't meet water quality standards for as well out there. And so part of this is part and parcel is trying to get water main extended from basically where the driveway, roughly where the driveway for the RV park, Cameron's RV park is. So extending it down there. And again, part of the reason we've explained before we want to do this is that we don't want to develop anything in Smithfield Park and then have to come in and cut it and open it up and run a water line through there. So they really need to be part and parcel to this issue and deal with it. So that's what's going on there. And again, our best hope would be to proceed to CDP roughly in that late winter timeframe as well. We're hopeful with that. Some of that will be dependent upon the environmental process more than anything else. So Carter Park. So this is that was sort of the great, the good, and disappointing. But we want to just let you know, we know folks are wondering. We saw kind of a run up to getting everything ready, moving it forward. I want to thank Moz and our crew and everybody for getting us there. And I just wanted to let you know that we are in a bit of a holding pattern. We're disappointed with that. We know the community is as well. But we are working toward finalizing agreements with the adjoining property owner for Stone Pine Shopping Center to allow us the access that we need for construction purposes and everything that. And that's been a lot slower process than we had hoped for, but we're optimistic and working, and we have a meeting set next week, and we think we're going to have this moving forward again, and we will be fully under construction. And the contractor is set up out there; they're ready to go. But until we have that in place, that's where we are. I will say, we have a little bit of fault in this in terms of a bit of a misunderstanding in terms of the agreements in place that we thought we had, and we're formalizing those things, and we have to own up to our responsibility and side of this issue. So that's where we are. So we're going to continue to move this forward. The Carter Park will be built, and we're looking at next spring to really in earnest open this up and have it available. And certainly for Eddie's next big bash in September, we will have a great facility. And we obviously should have a place for Half Moon Bay. Oh gosh, I can't even.
Shakespeare in the Park.
Shakespeare in the Park. Sorry, thank you. So that's where we are there. We took a little liberty to expand the conversation a little bit into some of the trail and path because they relate to the parks and all of the implementation side. I just wanted to mention that we have been working also very vigilantly on trying to get additional funding and find other funding sources. And we have put in several grants, and these are just some of those, and particularly related to the East Side Parallel Trail. So we're looking at also trying to study and plan for the extension of an East Side Parallel Trail to the south, which would go from basically Higgins Canyon down to and include access into the Moon Ridge project. But also we're looking at submitting some funding request for connection to the county's project, and also for segment 2, the piece that extends from Spindrift over Frenchman's Creek and to Rousseau Francais. So we are actively engaged in trying to find funding. And the great news is that segment 2 piece, we are still remain in the House budget, approved budget for $2 million from Jackie Spears and Anna Eshu support with that as well. So we're cautiously optimistic that we'll continue with that and work through those things. So just to say we're continuing to work on these issues. And something I know near and dear to your hearts as well is that we are working on the e-bike issues, and this will coincide also with some of the other work that we've talked about in terms of potentially establishing speed limits, looking at share the road signage, and all the things that go with things that the BPAC talked about. And Paulette has been involved with in the past through the BPAC. And that survey is out. We hope that you're able to jump on and take it, encourage friends, family, and frenemies even to go and please fill this out. And at these locations, you can actually do the QR and take it right out there. These are posted on A-frame signs out there. So even if you don't want to go to the city webpage, you can just QR that thing and take the survey and run from there. And that's running through September 15th or so. So still time to get that out there. And we will be bringing forward then some ordinance recommendations, and we will as requested by the council for sure, bring this to the Parks and Rec Commission as well as through our BPAC before we go to council. So that's going to be upcoming and working on that. And then I am just going to push this and put this over to Moz, who's going to share his own set of slides for this and talk a little bit about what's going on out at the Poplar Parallel Trail and what we're moving forward with.
Thanks, John.
Take it away, Moz.
Thanks, John. Good evening, everyone. Before I jump into this, I just wanted to address some misinformation. My leg was bummed before I came to the city of Half Moon Bay. The kickball tournament had nothing to do with that.
Sure.
It was just a minor hamstring pull, and I will just like to report out that I'm just doing fantastic. So thank you for that.
Perfect.
Very good.
I don't fully buy it, but we'll let it go.
So I'm here tonight to give a quick update on our Poplar Pathway and its current situation and status. And I just want a little bit of background for folks that may have not known what's transpired. So the pathway itself has been maintained in some fashion over the last few years, over the last couple of decades. Hasn't been really gone through any major improvements I would say at least 10 to 15 years from what we understand. And so we did a project, and we were looking at widening the existing pathway. We had an 8-foot wide section. We had received a lot of comments and complaints about the width of the pathway, given that a lot of folks travel to Poplar Beach and the Coastal Trail from here. So we went, the project looked at widening it from 8 feet to 10 feet. We also did a remediation of the base and added some new asphalt. as well as implementing some ADA improvements on the Poplar intersection side. Looking at the bases, it's the base material itself. One of the things that we noticed, and it's an unfortunate situation that we find in a lot of other areas. A lot of our streets and trails, especially the asphalt sections, are not sitting on top of any suitable base material. So what happened is a lot of times people will come out and pave on top of the native materials. A lot of that was done back prior to incorporation on a lot of our city streets and some of our pathways due to cost of remediation efforts. But we decided to move forward and did a 16-inch deep base repair for this particular section of the trail. Oops, sorry. So the project was completed in January of this year. We started out fall of last year and completed in January of this year, accepted by the city council. And in June, we started noticing cracking. And I think this picture is really, it's a great example of the situation that we're facing with, and I'll go through that in a little bit. So you can see on this little diagram, I'm sorry, I was trying to find a better one, but this is a good section to kind of show what these materials look like. So what you see on the surface is the asphalt. This is the top layer. It's generally about a 2-inch section for pathways. It could be for highways, it'll be a lot thicker. Then underneath, usually you have a base material, which is more of a coarse rock. It provides for the majority of the strength that we have in our pavement sections that you see on the surface. And underneath that, you have what's something called the sub-base, which is basically a more refined and more compacted version of the base material, usually a finer substance. And then the subgrade is generally what's the native material underneath. And so if you can imagine what our pathway looked like, it was basically this surface on the subgrade material. There was no base and there was no sub-base in between that existing section. So as we built it out, we had a couple of different alternatives in addressing our base materials. And rather than going with a very deep section and ripping out a lot of material and taking that and disposing of it at a waste hauling facility, which is generally where that soil ends up going because of the clay materials and the organics that's in there. So rather than doing that, we decided to try a more economic approach. And it's what we've done in our street reconstruction projects, like on Metzger a few years back, and some of the other streets around our downtown area. What we did was we did a cement treatment. And so rather than removing material and disposing of it and trucking in new material, we took the existing sub-base and we did a combination mixture of cement and water to basically harden the material and turn it into an active base. And what that does is it basically recycles the subgrade and it creates the strength base that we generally put on top. Now, obviously, if this was all fantastic and perfect, why am I providing this presentation? Well, obviously we had quite a bit of a wet season out there, the December of last year and into this year. And with our materials, with the existing materials that we have out there, there's a lot of clay in these fields around the bluffs, especially in this area. And what we witnessed was the shrink and swell of that. So we expected, we would expect to see some shrink and swell, but the amount that we saw, I think, was very reflective of the level of storms that we witnessed this last rainy season. We had a 50-year storm by some metrics, a 100-year storm by other metrics. And what that does is it discharges a lot of water. And where it terminates a lot of the drainage patterns along these residential neighborhoods, it all terminates to these fields where it sits and over time, somewhat percolates, some of it evapotranspirates, which is basically drying up of the materials. And so what we had was essentially water, a lot of water and a lot of moist land right against this new pathway. And so what happened was, as that clay started getting that moisture content, it expands, and clay expands a lot more than other types of soil materials. And that's one of the issues with having the clay soils and why we try to get them out of there when we have the ability. Now, what ended up happening was the shrink swell was not of the area under the pathway, but it was actually on the area next to the pathway. And I think the reason why I point to this picture is you can kind of see where the crack starts, right at the edge of the concrete base where the bike fixing station is. And so you can see here where the AC is adjacent to the concrete, there was no shrink swell because you had a thick, suitable base, a thick, suitable edge against it. Now, we were looking at potential opportunities, but without doing a very wide and thick concrete band, any metal or wood trimming that we would have put would not have done anything to stop this type of damage. And so unfortunately, we have a situation where the environment has, because of these soil conditions and the weather that we had received this last rain event, we saw this cracking, longitudinal cracking expedited faster than we had anticipated. So what does that mean as far as next steps? So we're going to be doing some crack sealing. We want to make sure that we stop any moisture from penetrating into the base material. So we will be going out there with a crack seal. What we had anticipated was to continue to build up our section. Again, keep in mind the cost implications to doing base remediation work. We kind of went in this medium range to try to extend our project dollars, with the idea that we would be coming back in the next in the next 5 to 6 years to do another overlay of asphalt on the top. And what we've been doing is for our overlays is what we have is we have a material that's it's called glass grid. There's different terms for it, but it's essentially a fiberglass woven mesh layer. And what it does is provides a little bit of reflexive, a little bit of rigidity to our pavement section on the top of our existing section, and it provides a little bit more structure and strength to the new layer that would be placed on the top. And so with this process, essentially what we would be doing is building up our structural section as we maintain it over the next 5 to 10 years. And so that'll be the next steps. You will see in the near future some crack sealing to address the cracks that we have out there, address the penetration of stormwater concerns, and then we will continue to build our structural section on the top of it. And so with that, I think it will take a couple of iterations that we will continue to build out our section and maintain it. But I think at the end of the day, what we will get is that thick structural section that we are looking for without having a lot of off-haul and disposal of materials. So that's it for the update, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
So if I could, through the chair, I think what also exasperated this, Maz talked about the oddity of our October and then December rains that fed to the ditch along there. But then we had in the spring, when we really saw the cracking and the shrink swell, we had that triple digit temperatures that all of a sudden is when all the calls came and said, hey, we've got cracking along there. And I think you all know when that happened because, our phones were ringing off the hook and we had to go out and deal with it. So that also was exacerbated by that heat that really super dried and really caused the problems. I think it's worth saying is one of the questions that always says, well, why didn't we build it right the first time? That's the argument that comes. As Maz alluded to, we have a limited budget. We had to replace that piece of trail. When we look at doing a traditional segment of that, if we went and dug out and tried to get to the point of where we think that we would never have or very, likely have 30 years of stability there with that, we've looked at it and priced it out at somewhere between $700,000 and $1 million for that piece of trail. And bottom line is that we had to go this route in hopes that probably for still less than a third of the total cost of that, we will still have a stable and safe path and trail for folks to use for that same 30-year period. So this was a cost benefit assessment that we had to kind of work through with the budget that we were working with. And we're disappointed as anybody about what this looks like. I also want to say is that we've landed in our analysis, we've looked at all of our investigation stuff, we've looked at all of our inspection reports, and we do not see this as being a contractor related issue. And frankly, the design was reviewed and approved by us and signed off by Moz, and we don't see that also as being an issue there. So that was our first step, was to evaluate and make sure that we did not have construction defect or design defect, and we've landed on the fact that we just don't believe we do. We just have extremely challenging soil conditions out there that make the job tougher for us all. So I apologize for even having to be here, but that's nature wins virtually every time, and they won on this one. But we'll work it out, I think.
Can I make a comment? Everyone's mic is off. Can you hear me?
Yep, make a
Yeah, we
comment.
can hear you.
Okay. All right. Yeah, it's not impressive. Okay. I have to just to say, I mean, to have finished it in January and for us to be where we are half a year later with these big cracks there, it's not a good reflection on the city in putting this together. Let me ask Moz this. If it had been completed in June, let's say, and then had time to dry and, come together before the rainy season, would that have made a difference in terms of, in terms of it being able to, for us to see a smooth surface longer than, than 4 months?
I've asked myself that same question, and looking at our base materials, looking at our inspection reports on the soils testing, and looking at our weather patterns, I think with the severity of storms that we had, that was the primary culprit. It was that stormwater. So yes. If we did it in June and we got the rains, if we did it in June and we got the rains this year, we would still see the same failure. Because I asked myself that same question because obviously the timing of the construction, was there an opportunity to try to avoid this? But it wasn't a construction related or construction timing issue. It just was, unfortunately, the size of the weather, the rain events, the timing of the rain events between each of the storms, and the amount of soil saturation, groundwater saturation that we were experiencing in this location. So unfortunately,
right. But are you saying that even if it had been completed a couple of months before those events, that it wouldn't have made any difference? Those events were so severe that we still would be where we are.
Correct, because the base, when we do that full depth, we call it full depth reclamation, where we take the soil and mix it with cement and compact it and place it down. That actually goes through its own compaction testing and has a very specific requirement for the density and how much pushback it has. And so what we call is a 95 relative compaction. So it's how much it's compacted relative to the rest of the area. And so that met the requirements, and that cement had dried and met its design loading. So that's why if we would have rushed and put the AC on the top, then I could see that could have been a potential issue. But the sequence in the construction, they did it the way that the design was intended.
I will, if I could, I think the piece that's also missing in the conversation is that in a perfect world, we would have been able to extend out beyond the edge of this project and do additional, perhaps compaction and excavation. And because of the environmental limitations, the CDP process, we were expanding by 2 feet, and that required a whole CDP, a whole biological monitoring, a whole process and everything. So part of this is also, you know, we were working beyond what the original trail used to be and was in. And so we expanded out further into basically this clay and organic materials underneath it. And without the ability to expand out 2-3 feet beyond the edge of the path, which we might in a perfect world have done that. And we weren't able to do that because of the biological conditions out there and those limitations. So that's also one of the challenges that when we look at these projects that we don't get to do what we would like to do sometimes with the work. So.
And
I'd
this,
say just from a final thoughts from our perspective is, I think with the information we had at the time, we made the right decisions. We've learned from this. You know, we had unprecedented weather. Well, guess what? Once it's happened once, it's not unprecedented anymore. And so we'll take what we've learned from this and apply it to all of our future projects, because obviously everybody wants to avoid this in the future. But I'm confident that our team did what was right under the circumstances, and we have to learn from this and carry forward, and that the solutions they presented to repair and improve it, I think will help it in the long term in the future.
All right, so one other comment, regardless if it's this path or any other path, can we not put a middle line down the path? Because this, you know, it's a problem. People they're more likely to respect a line than they are just open. You know, they just walk across the 3 people will just walk, you know, across the whole thing while you're trying to get by with your bicycle or walking or whatever. And, you know, I'm here in British Columbia where they put a line down every path and people do respect it.
You know, Canadians are really nice, though. Come on, but
well, there is that fact.
But I will, and they have great paths and trails, and I assume you're up near Vancouver there somewhere. But
that's right.
I think we need to look at that. The BPAC, that's something on our list with the BPAC. You were engaged in that and actively working with that. We're going to be doing the overlay of that 1,700 linear feet of the coastal trail. I think we have to look at that issue. We've always been honest about it. It's primarily it's a fairly narrow trail, and that does kind of feel limiting, but it's also a cost factor of having to go out and run that again. But that's something the community can weigh in on. And if it's a safety, then we should do it regardless. If it's a convenience thing, you know, we can talk about it. And but we're certainly going to look at that when we do the overlay work, and that we're coming in with what Moz described on this of what we would do anyway. So we can talk about the center line at that point. And I suggest we look at trying to develop with our engineering staff the design standard that tries to look at all of the striping, signage striping for our entire trail, including the east side parallel trail and everywhere else. So we need to look at that and deal with it. So I promise you, we will look at it.
Okay. So the other thing, of course, is Carter Park. Very disappointed to hear about Carter Park. To me, I mean, I thought that was a priority for us. Like, why this isn't moving. Now you've got me worried about timing, about if we're really going to have it by next year. I mean, my stomach did a turn when you gave us the update on Carter Park.
So let me, if I can, through the chair, I want to assure you this project is fully funded. This project we have a contract with the contractor firm there, Wickman. This project is going to happen. It's just, we're in a little bit of a holding pattern, as I said, and we're working through that issue, and we will have, I believe, resolution in the very near future. We were able to acquire an easement and access for storage on the other side of Stone Pine Road from the Bevcunia family. So we're already moving, and that'll be a laydown area. So all of this is moving forward. So I want to assure those that are watching, you that are participating with that deal, this is a little bump in the road. We're disappointed. I assure you, none of us wanted to come here and have this conversation, but it's also our responsibility to come and tell you and be upfront and be the adults in the room to say, look, you know, we have a little bit of a bump and we're moving it forward. But again, I assure you, with next year programming, we'll be in that park and we'll be in good shape and deal with that.
Okay. All right. Otherwise, a good update on everything else. I was glad to hear. So just to let you know, but that was,
thank you.
That was upsetting.
And okay. I hope folks are able to come out for the ribbon cutting.
Okay, we'd like to jump to our next item, which is our Friends of Parks and Rec update. And we've got Kirk Reimer here. Kirk, if you wanted to share your update, I know there's a lot going on with the organization.
Yes. Hi. Thanks for the opportunity to talk to the commission. So Friends is still here. We are actively still working on trying to bring a community pool as probably our main focus. And I'm sure you're all aware of that. And we have had some changes in our officers with a resignation of the president. I have actually taken the treasurer's seat. But our executive director, Maria Burns, is still with us. She does plan to transition out, but in case of any doubt, she is still with us and very active and supportive of the Friends group. We also are bringing in new board members, and our current focus, and the reason why I think I'm here tonight, is to remind you that Summer's End concert's coming up, and Friends intends to man and operate a beverage booth serving both beer and wine for this event. We are in the process of gathering volunteers, and everybody attending this meeting tonight is welcome and invited to participate in the setup, in the pouring and the takedown of the booth on the, is it the 24th of September? Do I have that date right?
Correct.
All right. Just in case, you're all invited. We're always looking for volunteers, and it's a great place to spend some time, right there on Main Street. Otherwise, let me take the opportunity to let anybody ask me any questions about what we're up to.
Okay, I've attended 2 of the concerts in the park, and you had a booth at both of the concerts. There is absolutely nothing about Carter Park at your booth. And, you know, that's an option, of course, that you can take to not support or promote or do anything about Carter Park. But if that's the case, I'm asking our recreation department to have a booth at all these things and promote Carter Park.
And I guess you have, but we don't have any material to present about Carter Park. If somebody was to ask me what the current status of it is, I would say it's under construction, but I've heard the updates today. Yeah, if that's a priority, that's certainly the prerogative of the city to do that. We don't, we're really not involved in Carter Park. We're not against it, of course. We're supportive of all the activities, but are we actively talking about it? Do we have material to present to passersby about it? No, we do not. there's a remedy for that, but we don't have it, and I don't think it's our role to provide it.
Well, that's fine. So, but we need to be promoting Carter Park. So if that's not going to happen at all through Friends of Parks and Rec, then we need to step up.
You're talking from a
from
a fundraising perspective.
Well, partly is the fundraising, but the other thing is to just keep awareness to the community about this project. Most people don't even know it's happening. I keep telling people every time I tell someone, it's news to them. So, we are not doing anything to promote this. And we need to really get that going, especially because we want to raise money for the rest of the construction of this park. Is there an amen?
There's an amen, and I'll also
go
share,
ahead.
we'll be asking the commissioners to help do some of that work at the Summer's End concert. So we'll reach out to all of you, and we hope you are able to support some outreach at Summer's End at a city booth.
Very good.
All right, I think I don't have anything else to say. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to. Otherwise, I would move on.
Thank you, Kirk. And we'll all be in touch with you next week, and we'll get some details out of the way, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I know.
Thanks, Kirk. Our next item is another public art item, which is always exciting. I'm not sure the commissioners are aware of this because this has happened during the time period that we've had to modify some meetings. Victor Gaitan, who shepherded the mural project forward and started work on this project I'm going to share with you tonight, he's actually left the city. He still lives here on the coast, but he took a housing position with the city of Redwood City. He's really excited for the opportunity to develop some expertise in housing and affordable housing. And it's something we hope he brings back to the city in the future, that expertise to work with us. So it's a big loss. Victor was an incredible employee and a great asset and did a lot of great work, and he'll be missed sorely here at City Hall. We were lucky to have somebody on our staff that lives here locally that have the skill set and the interest, and she's moved into that role. She's getting geared up, working on a lot of other issues. Her name is Julissa Acosta. At some point, I'm sure there'll be a project that will bring her before your group, and she can introduce herself. In the meantime, we're going to keep moving these art projects forward. And tonight, we're actually going to have you consider a donation, art donation request. So where I'd like to start is just reminding you how this works under our public art policy that you all helped us develop and we adopted late last year. So for a donation of artwork, this comes at the request of the community. There's a piece of artwork or an idea for artwork that they bring to the city that they would like to donate. And of course, like everything else, we start with the Parks and Recreation Commission. It's a two-step process. So tonight I will be introducing the artwork and the concept. We'll be talking about the aesthetics of it, the appropriateness of this artwork in the city. We'll be sharing a couple of location options, and we're looking for your feedback. And then we will come back at if you want us to move forward, we will come back at the September 28th meeting with a very detailed proposal of the artwork, the location, the installation, all of that, so that you can develop a recommendation for the council. Some of the things you'll be considering are, as far as the artwork goes, you're going to be considering the aesthetics, the quality, the style, the permanence, will it last in our community? Public liability, if there's anything that from a safety perspective concerns you, just the feasibility of this artwork being placed in the community, and duplication of other artwork already in the community. When we talk about the location, and I apologize, I noticed I misspelled location. You'll be looking at the visibility of the location, the lighting, public safety, impacts to the facility that we propose, or the options for location, traffic impacts, relationship to the other features of that facility, any future development plans, the natural setting, and the installation and maintenance of the artwork at this location. So again, tonight, we will share the artwork, we'll share some background on it and the artist himself. We'll talk about a couple of locations, and then we'd like you to discuss your thoughts, your impressions. Ultimately, if you think this is something we should continue to pursue with the donor, and hopefully have a recommendation on the preferred location, and then we'll come back on September 28th with more detail for you to make a recommendation to the council. So a little bit of background on the artist. The artist's name is Silvio J. Modena Jr. He's a lifelong and longtime Coastside resident. He's a longtime Navy veteran. And through his work in the Navy, he developed artwork that is made from, that it creates bells using high pressure compressed air cylinders. So think of an oxygen tank or a helium tank. They're very thick metal, they're large and heavy, and he makes artistic bells out of them. And I included his website here. We can open it up after the presentation if you'd like to look at some of that artwork. But more than anything, you're free to look at it on your own. There's a specific piece of artwork he'd like to share. And there's a group in the community that is working on purchasing it and donating it to the city if we move forward with this. And it's called the Spirit of Life Bell. I'll share a picture of it. This is it. It is quite large. I would say at the base, it's 5 feet by 5 feet, and it's over 10 feet tall. So I'm dwarfed when I stand next to this object. It is heavy, it is strong, very well made. The bell, I'm going to just read some of the information provided by the artist and his supporters. The bell's creation was inspired by and reflects a lifetime of dedicated service, hard work, reverence, and respect for nature. The idea for the Spirit of Bell Life came to the artist while exploring the petroglyphs in the desert and marveling at the ancient and universal understanding of the spiral as the symbol of the life source and the belief that everyone and every living thing came from and will return to the earth. The components that make up the spirit of life were collected, recovered, reclaimed, reimagined, and repurposed by the artist. The clapper, which I believe is the part that rings the bell, and there's some folks on public comment that will probably correct me if I'm wrong with any of this. The clapper is formed from the universal joint of a Caterpillar tractor. The frame is assembled from hand-embellished steam pipes, and the base is crafted of switchgear from an abandoned railroad line. So everything on this piece of artwork is reclaimed. The bell itself began as a refill cylinder servicing scuba tanks. The cylinder was tempered to tone, and the components merged and embellished using an anvil, hammers, torches, and grinders. And a little bit about the artist. He grew up in San Gregorio. He was a childhood friend of John Muller, Farmer John, and they joined the Navy together. And he served in Japan, in Vietnam, and aboard the USS Joseph Strauss. It was through that work in the Navy that he developed the skills to do this artwork. I will say I've seen this artwork and dozens of other pieces of his artwork in person. They're quite beautiful. The bell itself is loud, it's deep, it's beautiful, it makes a beautiful tone. And the craftsmanship is of very, very high quality. And then the statement of purpose is to install the Spirit of Life in a prominent location in downtown Half Moon Bay as a monument of remembrance and acknowledgement of all personnel from the San Mateo County coastside who served the country as members of the United States Armed Forces. A location under consideration could include the City Hall parking lot, although at this time, we're not asking you to consider that because of other factors that we're considering right now. That may be something we could look at in the future. But they really want to see it as a focal point and centerpiece of any space. and Silvio works with his son to continue to build and provide this artwork to the community. What I will say about just in general about that is something I've had on my mind a long time, and this I think could create a spark, is we don't have anything in our community that really recognizes or memorializes the members of the armed services that have fought in our wars, served our country, and died in our wars. And I think it's time for us to explore that as a community and really provide that recognition. And to have a piece of artwork dedicated to that purpose, created by a veteran, I think could just be a beautiful way to start that process. The two current locations that it could at least temporarily go or permanently go include this round planter at Kitty Fernandez Plaza on kind of near the south end of Main Street. The large planter area would, some of the plantings there would need to be removed, and the irrigation would need to be removed, and a solid, concrete base would be provided to be able to bolt this down and provide a solid and safe location. Given its adjacency to a residential neighborhood, we would probably recommend in this location removing the ringer and only installing it for ceremonies and different events. Certainly, we would not want somebody at midnight coming through the neighborhood and ringing an extremely loud bell that resonates everywhere. But it could be a really beautiful complement to some of the other artwork that's here. And by being up in the planter, it would have some protection from vandalism and misuse. The second location we've looked at is somewhere in this area on the bluffs above Poplar Beach. It is open to the public, it is visible, and I think in this location that the bell could potentially be left to be utilized by the public, and it might be fun for families to be able to utilize it. We'll have to explore any environmental concerns and habitat concerns related to that. The other thing we'd have to consider is just the durability of the construction in the harshness of being right there on the bluffs. But certainly something we could consider. And so with that, I think we could take any clarifying questions from any of you about the proposed installation and donation. And then we can take public comment, and then you can have a discussion about the artwork itself. So again, to start, any clarifying questions about what I've shared with you tonight?
I'm just wondering if this artist, if this bell maker, because when I go to the Kings Mountain Fair, there's somebody that makes these huge bells. I'm just wondering if it's the same artist.
I think we'll ask those that are on public comment that know the artist about
Okay.
that, but I believe you're correct based on my conversations with the artist.
Yeah.
What's the timeline that we expect it to last? I mean, with the weather, and I'm sure it's used to our environment, but just do we have a sense?
In conversations again with the artist, he believes that he's not just, and I've gotten confirmation that is him, Commissioner Eisen. Based
great.
on what the artist said, this is not raw metal. It's been sealed and finished to protect it from the elements, and it should last decades. The city would be responsible for maintenance on this and taking care of it, and we would work with the artist to make sure we understood how to best maintain it and keep it in good condition. But this is a local artist. He's been building these on the coast for a long time and does it with outdoor use in mind, and so he believes decades.
Awesome.
Cool.
Any other questions before we move to public comment?
None from me.
Okay, I'm going to briefly stop sharing my screen and ask for any public comment on this item.
Okay, it looks like we have Aaron again. Go ahead, Aaron.
All right, I'm unmuting. Hi, thanks everyone. So again, my name is Erin Tormey, and I am a longtime friend of Silvio Medina, and it's his birthday today. So I'm really excited to be part of this small group that is bringing this idea to to the city and to the commission, and very much looking forward to working with you as the project progresses. I wanted to, if anybody has any specific questions about the bell itself, or questions about the public, well, actually, I should just say this. One of the things that we have in our or I guess not corner, but something that just to keep in mind is that we do have the commitment of a gentleman in the community, Mr. Joe Cotchett, who has agreed very wholeheartedly. He's also a vet member of Special Services, to support with public funds any of the maintenance contracts, the installation, we know that things like this cost money, and that they take time and they need to be dealt with in a sensitive way, because it's a big topic. We have a number of individuals in the community that are architects and landscape designers, all of whom have offered their services in helping us design and develop a plan. When Matthew was talking about the City Hall parking lot, was one of our early things about, kind of working with some traffic mitigation there and creating plazas, or working with folks like Chad Hooker, Steve Kikuchi, Steve Horn, have all committed time, resources, ideas about ways to really make a space of reflection and honoring that's worthy of the people that it recognizes, and also enhances the community downtown. So that's my blah, blah, blah. If anybody has any questions about any of that specifically, I'm happy to answer them if I can.
Anybody have any questions for Erin? Again, she's got a long relationship with the artist and is one of the proponents, and certainly can answer any questions. Okay, thank you, Erin. Thank you so much for joining us tonight and sharing. And if other questions come up, I'm sure Erin will stay on and we can ask them. But at this point, do we have any other public comment?
Unless Erin has raised her hand again. Oh, okay, Joyce Logan. Go ahead, Joyce.
I just want to applaud Erin and Matthew for the presentation. I have been involved and interested in this for many, many months. And I think that this is an opportunity that our city should welcome and move forward with reverence and joy. Thank you.
Erin, you have your hand up. Go ahead if you have something else to say.
I don't know why my hand is still up. I'm sorry. I thought
it's okay. I will put it down for you.
Okay. I think that moves us on to Summer's End.
Oh, no, we're not done, Eddie.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Hold your horses there. So commissioners, so we have two items on this to talk about. The first is just the artwork itself, the concept, and if it's something you would like staff, you would recommend that staff would continue to pursue. And then we can talk about the location, and certainly those can bleed together. They're not necessarily separate discussions. So we welcome your comments and your input as we continue this project.
Adam or Paulette, would you like to say anything?
Yeah, well, I love this artist's work. I especially at Kings Mountain would look at every single bell. I love the bells. I think it's beautiful. I didn't know about the background with the veteran. That makes it even more significant. I'm all for it, the issue is going to be location. The other issue, the big issue, is whether we want to be able to use the bell, i.e. be able to make sound, especially as sort of a call to the community to, or like, now pay attention, or, you know, whatever it is, that it could be very effective. At the same time, the issue is people banging the clapper of the bell and causing, you know, sounds when we don't want them. So that's all the tricky part that does need serious consideration. But as far as the bell itself and wanting it to move forward for the city, I am all for it.
Yeah, me too. I appreciate the fact that somebody was willing to take the time and energy to donate such a project. I like the idea of having it more central. I kind of agree with Paulette in terms of something we can reference and use for the city. I am nervous about having it be too close to the residential community. I get that. Having it out on by the ocean, there's so many people at that location that kind of like cause, I don't know. I could see it depending on how usable it is, I guess, is the concept. But like, I could see it getting vandalized, I guess. And I wouldn't want that to happen with all the different types of people that come to the beach. So I think a more protected area would be better, unless there's confidence with the person putting the project out there that it couldn't, it's unvandalizable, let's just say.
The other question I have, is it possible to, have a clapper that is removable and, can go in when we want it in and out when we want it out?
Yeah, it's already built with a clapper like that. The artist also indicated that he could create a clapper that would really mute. You could still ring it, but it wouldn't be as loud as what's currently installed. And then the other thing that we talked about is there might be a way to secure the clapper, with a lock so that it's always on there, but you can't actually get it to hit the bell until you remove the lock. And then of course the city would be in control of that. So I think those are all things we can work around. And I think we all agree that we don't want it to disturb the community, but there is something cool about it being heard in our downtown. And like you said, there might be a use for it. So it'd be kind of cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I could see it next to City Hall or like, somewhere there. And it's kind of like bring the community together.
And even to commemorate Memorial Day and have, some moments of silence, that it's preceded by the bell, by the gong. It makes it, it adds to a whole ceremonial effect.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. Almost like a 21-gun salute or something with it.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. I share the same sentiments of wanting I really would like to be able to ring the bell. And I also have concerns about Poplar Beach and vandalism. And the fact that while there's a cool romantic element to being able to ring the bell at the beach, I do love that. I also feel like there's more of a community feeling if it's in our downtown area. The weird thing is that Kitty Fernandez Park feels not like, it's definitely not a place where people congregate. And so I did find myself asking how these were the final two location choices, just because of that. It made sense from a physical perspective, but definitely from a community congregation perspective, not ideal.
Yeah, and we're certainly not limited to these two locations. What these two locations provided is something that was highly visible to the community, something that we had control over, and we knew looking at it we can make it happen. But we are certainly open to other suggestions. It looks like John Dowdy's got his hand up.
I sorry to jump in. I couldn't help but say and think this. Part of the reason that Kitty Fernandez is not a place that people congregate, because there is very little reason to congregate there. And I think part of the concept of this is to give people a reason to come there, you know, veterans, and for us to be able to have events and things. And I'm not set in any way on this, but I think part of the problem when we went to Parks and Rec with the Parks Master Plan, it was just no there and there. And maybe this is the opportunity to put the there and there in terms of why people would come there. Just the thought of saying sometimes you have to build it so they will come and do something with it. But we certainly, I don't have a dog in this fight really with it. Love the project.
How about we remove our fountain and put in the bell?
Where's the fountain?
She's talking about
Yeah, exactly. McDutra.
Where are we going to put our big Christmas tree stand?
Oh, that's what it's serving.
And pumpkin
right.
stands.
And that was good.
Yeah. But so here's what I'm hearing, and we'll continue the discussion, is that it sounds like the commission is very supportive of moving forward with this. You're looking for a more central location where it can be utilized in the community, and you're not sold that it's Kitty Fernandez Plaza.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
to John's point, I am very supportive of doing something with Kitty Fernandez Park to make it more useful. It is definitely always going to be a very awkward situation with the homes like right up against it. But like speaking as a pet owner and a parent and an active person, I can list like 10 reasons why that park is not ever populated by people. So I think it takes like more changes than just this attraction. Like if we were to do that, I would love to see some additional reasons for people to stay at the park. And then I think that you'd maybe have this nice situation where people are actually staying and enjoying the thing. But it almost feels to me like it's like sad to put it there because it can't be appreciated as much as I would like to have it appreciated.
I'm going to throw something out partially because I'm being.
Hold on. Well, I got one more idea.
Oh, go for it.
One more idea. How about putting it where, have we removed that statue yet or have we not? Or there's other things going in.
The moon statue?
In Carter Park.
Oh, the Carter Park.
We haven't removed it yet, but in order to contemplate putting it at Carter Park, I think we would have to wait till we're much further into the project to think about the scale and location.
Okay, because that could be well utilized there, and it could look beautiful. Yeah. So
yeah, because you can
that's
use
something to consider.
Yeah, but it would take longer. Yeah, I would definitely be a bigger fan of Carter Park than there. And I also was kind of wondering, like, if there's any place that there's one of the biggest congregation areas is also where the farmers market is. And I don't know if that's just all private property, but it's a place where people come, and maybe that is something.
Well, the only thing that isn't private is 555 Kelly, essentially. And nothing's, there's no plan with that still or whatever, and that could be another great spot for this.
I'll let you know the city council has approved moving forward with exploring a plan for housing on that site. There's 555 Kelly is not something we can consider right now. But we do own a lot of property in Shoreline Station. Certainly we could look at Ted Adcock, somewhere around Ted Adcock as a location for that. I'll throw something else out there because we have looked at the City Hall parking lot closer to Main Street as a potential place to do something. We're just not in a position to commit to what that would be long-term right now. And I just wonder, John, do you think there's potential to at least do a temporary installation there? It's a pilot, if we want to call it that.
Oh, sorry, sure.
No, go ahead.
No, we have really contemplated closing off the awkward access point to Main Street through that point and basically just having the looped area and actually using the remainder of our parking lot. You've got the restaurant using a portion of it, but they're using that remainder as a parklet and community space. And I love the idea of this sort of perhaps expanding to that point and dealing with it. Certainly we don't have that bigger plan or monies, but I do think that we could go ahead and look at closing off and doing this if we really want to do that, and then work around basically developing the plan and install that there. So that's a possibility. And I think, it sounds like within the time frame we're looking at, we could probably make that something like that happen and deal with it. So I love that idea.
Where?
Well, what we would do is
Don, I'm gonna pull up a map.
Where Nanos, you know where Nanos is? We're talking about, we'd like to close off that access point there onto the street. It's extreme, it's kind of hazardous. People go the wrong way and people buzz out of there really quick. You're really way too fast and there's too many pedestrians. And we've looked at taking a large piece of that and just turning that into public space and removing the parking and basically just turning it there. There you go, Matthew.
Can you share? Can you all see my screen?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we consider this entry onto Main Street one of the more dangerous entry points, just because it's pretty high traffic and it's a blind entry. And so what we've considered is basically closing the parking lot in this area, reorienting some of the ADA parking here, leaving a nice visual corridor down to the jail and the museum.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, we've leased this property to Nanos for their space, and it's working really well. But that leaves us this area here, and that's kind of what we've considered.
Oh, that's so cool.
And so I just wonder, on a temporary basis, if we closed maybe one of the parking spaces, we want to make sure it was protected and safe. But the hard part is, we do have these trees. It's not perfect yet.
Matthew, I think that we could seriously look at talking about removing that tree. And if you did a street view, you'll see we have a whole planter there where that tree is, and that's a possibility too. I know the trees are beloved, but some of them do go away, some of them are not. And if you do sort of that street view there. There is a planter there we could probably work from and deal with that and expand upon that. And that's a possibility too.
I think that's a potentially great spot because it's across from McDutra Plaza. So, it can be used for some kind of, gathering at McDutra. And still, because that's a loud bell. If someone's going to ring that bell, as part of a ceremony of some sort, it can be used. It's also visible. It should be visible. It's, in a choice spot. I think that has great potential.
I think there's also another piece to this for consideration down the road is that I know there's conversation about whether that mural maybe is transformed into a new mural, and that tree basically eliminates most view from Main Street to that mural spot. So that this may be a sacrificial point for both purposes to open up and allow for the current mural or a new mural perhaps to go on there and the visibility along with this. And maybe that mural might follow suit with your idea of celebrating our veterans or whatever. If there's any options available. There's lots
Right.
of things, service to community, any kind of those things in dealing with that, and service to country, service to community, service to
Yeah.
to whatever with that deal. Just a concept, but that tree basically blocks the view of that mural at this point anyway. It's really difficult to see it. So
I have just a couple of comments. I love the idea of that area being a place where people can sit. I think one of the things that Muckdrucha lacks is the ability to sit under trees, and these are mature and therefore do provide the ability to do that. And I really like that. I just wonder if you actually just are able to make it so that it's just like seating, and that then it would be perfectly fine to be able to go back slightly, and you could put that bell in a number of places where it could be featured if that is a direction that you go. And I think it would be so cool because it would spill over into the Nanos eating situations, so people could be having food access and sitting. I love the whole thing, and I think you'd be able to see a mural from the other side of the tree. So I think overall it's a great idea. I'm not gonna sort of give up on the trees yet, because I think that there are a number of options if we're talking about not having those two parking places and instead thinking about it as a cool place for people to be. The trees are gonna make it feel more comfortable as a place to be.
So if I could just say one thing, we are embarking on through the CRY as a follow-on to the CRY effort on basically a Main Street sort of revitalization project. I will say this, I would anticipate, because of issues with stormwater, with parking, with trying to widen the sidewalks and doing some of these things, that many of the trees will have to go and be replaced by new trees and then down the road. So I just point that out, that this is all sort of part of a bigger plan and kind of looking at it. I agree with you that we could work around the tree here, but I also just say that there is some bigger efforts and work going on to look at this, and that's something that we're going to have to ultimately.
But John, when you're talking about that space, are you thinking of having people be sitting around there? I mean, that's right next to the city hall. I can't imagine that would be, that could be disturbing to, even though God knows when you'll be back in that building.
Oh, I'm here now. Matthew's here.
We're back in. City Hall's open.
You're back in.
I think it's a great idea.
For like 8 months.
we have folks in Nanos. We go over and sit there.
Yeah.
We used to have
Nanos
actually
is just still a little bit more separate. It's not right up against the building.
And I think we're getting
You're
little
off the field a little bit
now.
Great idea, Matthew.
I think we're at a point where we're not, as city manager, I'll say that. I'm not in a position to support going all in on a big redevelopment here right now.
No.
But I think based on this conversation, there's support and an opportunity to do something temporarily in that first parking space. And then it gets it there. I will say, and I won't share all the reasons, but there's a little bit of urgency to get the bell placed soon,
right?
And allow the artists the opportunity to enjoy it and see it in the public. And so I think we've got some pretty clear direction from you all tonight. I can assure you, John and I are both at City Hall right now. When this meeting's over, we'll be out in the parking lot brainstorming. We will not be able to help ourselves. And and I'm sorry, we've got Erin Tormey has her hand raised again. Are you okay taking a little more public comment?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Erin, please unmute yourself.
Thank you. I will make this really quick. one of the things that we were looking at the Main Street, the City Hall lot, was the opportunity to also create more bicycle parking. If we did a sort of like a small little plaza there. So like extending where the brickwork was into different kinds of things, elevating the bell somewhat slightly. And then on the side over by Nano's side, maybe seeing if we could reconfigure their parklet so that there's these particularly interesting kind of things that you always see downtown is like people just don't have enough places to park their bicycles. So you thought if that was part of it too, that there was places to park bicycles, places to stop, sit, rest, think. And just this really, there's been some really interesting designs brought up. And I think it's, I'm really looking forward to working with the guys from the city on seeing what we can do about that. But I just wanted to pop that in there about the bicycles because that was a big part when this community group was looking at that space. So I will stop now. Thank you for your indulgence. And I'll meet you in that parking lot, Matthew, anytime.
8:30?
Sure.
Okay, I think we've got enough direction to work on something here, and we'll come back with a lot more detail at your next meeting. And I'm excited. I've been excited about this project since it was proposed. As Paulette has said, the craftsmanship, the pictures do not do it justice, and it's very tactile. You're going to want to touch it and feel it, and it's powerful. It's strong. And it's built by a community member. It's pretty cool. And we've got community members rallying behind this. So this is cool. We'll, like I said, John and I will be out there tonight poking around, and we'll come back next month with more details so that you can make a recommendation to the city.
I think we have some marking paint that we can put out there and really lay it out.
I'm not spray painting anything.
No cutting down the tree.
Yeah, no saws. No paint, just looking with our eyes, not with our hands.
Trust me, I love trees. Really, I do.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Next item, Eddie.
Okay. Maggie, can I share my screen? Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Got it. Okay.
No. There you go.
Got it. Here we go. Okay. Commissioners, wanted to give you kind of an overview of our plans for next month at the Summer's End Music Festival. As we all know, we are not able to use Carter Park, so we have found a good substitute location, and that is right here downtown Main Street. So here's our plan for this year, everyone. First, we're going to place barricades here at these portions of Kelly Street and Main Street. We're trying to have a decent sized event without impacting traffic too much. So we think allowing folks to detour from Main Street, Kelly to Johnston doesn't cause too much chaos or inconvenience to visitors that day. Right here on the south portion of Main Street, we're going to have our main stage for the event. Right here, we'll have all of our seating. Again, it's a pretty narrow area, so we're going to try to pack as much seating in that area as we're able to, while keeping it comfortable and safe and not making people feel like they're elbow to elbow. Right here is where we'll locate all of our amazing nonprofit partners that'll be showing up and pitching in that day. And we'll get to that just a few slides down the road here. We're also going to be keeping our cool artist craft booths and activities this year. And I'll go into the details on those here in just a few minutes. We'll still be having our 90-foot inflatable obstacle course that's staffed by the Boys and Girls Club of the Coast Side. The Half Moon Bay Library, Annie Malley and her crew are going to be there at the event again this year, running their imagination station and some arts and crafts. We also have a stage at Mac Dutra Plaza that we'll be using for the event, which we'll get into just a few minutes. We're bringing in some seating there for this separate stage at Summer's End, as well as some round tables, kind of similar to what we used in our outdoor dining area that we did last year. We want to make it really inviting this year. We want folks to have a place to sit with their friends and the kids and eat and really hang out for extended periods of time. We'll also be bringing in a rock climbing tower this year just to keep the kids happy and excited. And these are the locations of our bathrooms this year, the existing bathrooms at Mac Dutra Plaza. And then we'll also be bringing in about 9 ADA accessible porta potties here that will line up right outside of the City Hall. And then we're also going to have a standby emergency services vehicle. I think, Paulette, you probably remember a few years ago at Summer's End, we had someone faint. It kind of opened our eyes to something that I wasn't thinking about. So we, promised ourselves at that point we'd always be aware and proactive in this in case something like that were to happen again. So we'll have an emergency standby vehicle. And that is what our layout looks like for this year. What you will notice is I didn't say that we had a food vendor anywhere. When we had this event at Carter Park, we were really remote and didn't feel like we were imposing or impeding on any of the restaurant or food businesses' ability to sell and make money. But now that we're up here in Main Street, we know that we appreciate and understand that we're guests up here this year, and we want the surrounding businesses to benefit just as much as we will and the community will from this event. So what I'll be doing in the next few weeks is meeting with some of these business owners, not only to let them know about the event, but to help them work out a plan to where they might be able to prepare some box lunches and things that are easily transported by folks. They can buy it, take it out to their seats or over to the kids area. So that's something that we've opted not to do this year, is bring in a food vendor. That way we could, keep it fair to everybody. For our nonprofits this year, we have all of these. We have a few returning nonprofits at Summer's End and a couple new ones. Again, like I mentioned, the Half Moon Bay Library, they'll be there. They've been there every year. The Boys and Girls Club and the Friends of Half Moon Bay Parks and Rec. Everyone else, aside, except for Alas has been there every year at Summer's End Music Festival. And Golden Gate National Parks, California State Parks, Sea Huggers, the Chamber of Commerce, Mid-Penn and Mavericks are all new participants in this event. So it's pretty exciting. I'm glad Kirk did let us know tonight that they are going to be able to sell the beer and wine. They didn't know if they had the bandwidth to do that this year, but it's really exciting to hear that they're going to be able to pull it off. So that being said, our next slide, you notice that, and let me go back a couple slides here. At Mac Dutra Plaza, we decided to give the kids and the family their own kind of Summer's End Music Festival. So, I'm sorry, let me get this out of the way. So this year, the kids will have their own concert. They'll have Andy Z, who's super popular on the peninsula. He does a lot of awesome kids concerts. He'll be there at Summer's End. He'll have 3 sets that day. And then also surrounding Andy Z and his performances, we have our 90-foot inflatable obstacle course, our henna tattoos, our face painting, our caricature artists, and the new rock wall. So we really feel like we've made 2 different events, but are cohesive. And if you've been to Summer's End before, I'm sure you've noticed that there's definitely a family-friendly kids area, then the music and the adults and the beer and the wine. And we really think we've built on that and improved that this year. So we're excited to have kind of 2 Summer's End music festivals going on. For the lineup this year, okay. Can you guys hear that?
We can hear you.
Can you hear the
Oh,
background
you,
music?
but not AAL.
Oh, no, no music, just in your head, Eddie.
It's
No
definitely
background
here.
music.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. I thought you would be able to hear it. Okay, well, so here are our 4 bands are lined up for this year. At Summer's End, unlike concerts in the park, we like to give our local musicians an opportunity to play for the masses and give them a stage they might not normally get the chance to perform on. And then we have Summer's End, where we get a little bit bigger names, cost a little bit more money. But after 2019, a few of the bands reached out, and they were a little bummed out because they felt like they want representation on the big stage at the big event. So they were right. You know, this shouldn't be something that we have only for big bands and only give them the opportunity. So we picked one of our cool local bands, the Fabulous Cruise Tones. They do swing, cover, some classic rock. But there are our local heroes that are they're from here in town that are going to get the shot to play at the big stage at Summer's End Music Festival. Then we also have Touch of Class. They're a jazz, R&B, rock cover band, a big band too. Then we have the Winfields, more of like a rockabilly, classic rock, kind of country, hillbilly-ish kind of sound in a good way. And then we have the Native Elements, who are kind of a rock reggae combination, super popular here on the coast side. And they've played an event or two for us before. So this is our lineup for the day.
What's the order?
The order is, it'll be Fabulous Cruise Tones,
Good.
Winfield's, Touch of Class, and then Native Elements will wrap it up.
The closer.
The
Okay.
closer. Now let me grab my, sorry.
I'll just say I've seen Native Elements at a lot of different events, especially San Mateo's Music in the Park.
Yeah, me too.
They're going to bring their own crowd. There are people that love to see them perform and follow them. So in and of itself, they're going to bring their own audience, which is cool. It'll expose people to this event.
Yep.
And
Good.
initially, now again, this was all planned last year, and we canceled it following the lead of the Pumpkin Fest. So most of these bands were already contracted last year, with the exception of Native Elements. Initially, we had Coast Tribe, and they're a really popular local band from here, Grenada and Moss Beach. And when we thought about, in the future, next year, going to be our big year, the grand opening of Carter Park and having the event down there for the first year, we really thought that Coast Tribe being a local band would be a no-brainer to have them at the big event next year. So we talked to them. They were willing to kind of back out this year in anticipation for next year. So we replaced them with Native Elements, but we definitely have a good group of hometown people that are going to play at Summer's End next year. That being said, that's about all the updates I have for the festival. If anyone has any questions.
Yeah, for some reason I can't visualize what are the buildings that are at Miramontes and Maine?
Goldworks on the west side and the Main Street Grill on the east side.
Oh yeah. So we're still in the heart of town there.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's and I'm glad you mentioned that. That's the one place, Paulette, that I'm just really I want to talk to them and figure out a way that we don't step on any toes there, because I really feel like the stage in proximity to the grill, it's right there. And
right.
So I want to talk to them and just make sure there's no ill will. We can help them somehow, promote them or make them a sponsor for the event, just to smooth it over, because the stage is going to be not directly right in front, but close enough that it could impact some of those people that are trying to eat there. So
right.
That is a conversation that I'm going to have next week. I'll let you know how it goes. It should be. I think they'll be happy. We're bringing more people.
I think they close at 2:00 though, so it shouldn't. They're an early closer. They only do breakfast and a lunch. So
lunch.
They probably are the easiest.
Yeah, they close at 2 p.m. But frankly, they might want to stay open late for this.
They might stay open later and have their tables out. They're on Miramontes. So
And in all these businesses that sell food currently that'll be open that day, they're going to get just constant promotion through the day. Every time we do a set break, thank the group, tell the crowd who's coming up next. We're going to plug those businesses. Hey, during the break, make sure you stop here, and here and get some food, and really help them generate some traffic in their businesses. And doing that and not offering any kind of substitution for a food vendor out there, I think they'll be happy.
What was I going to ask you? So is there in front of the band, in front of the stage where the band is going to be?
There's going to be dancing.
Is there any? There's going to be a dancing area. Is there also going to be a seating?
Oh, yeah, Paulette. So I'll just jump on. I probably stopped this too quick. Let's see here. Yeah, let's go to this one.
And okay, so the seating will be on Main Street?
On Main Street. And what I've done, Paula, is I've rented 400 chairs. So that's not just for this area. They'll need some for the vendors, for the nonprofits, as well as the kids stage in that seating area. But throughout the event, we'll use about 400 chairs. We've measured downtown where we want to have the event. It's really hard to quantify how many seats we can actually fit there until the day comes and we do it. But, we're going to leave some space for dancing and try to make it comfortable. And we can go back a pretty far away, but you can see with the layout, it's really narrow and, just we're going to make the best of it.
I suspect, though, it'll be comparable to the seating that was for the Wine and Jazz Festival main stage, which was substantial. And then, people love just hanging out on the sidewalk and standing in the street. And I think we'll have, it'll be different. This is going to be a very different year. It's kind of a one-off, but it
looks great.
Thank you.
Yeah, it looks great. You've done great work here, Eddie, on putting this together. I think this looks very exciting.
And like Kirk said, we weren't pressuring anybody. Matthew and I talked about it. Having beer and wine is a luxury at this event. It's not a necessity. It's something that we think people enjoy. I could tell when Kirk presented today that they might have a tough time getting as many people as they think they need to do this again. So I'm going to echo what Kirk said. And if anyone is going to be there and could help them out for an hour or so, I know they would appreciate it. It's just going to make the event that much better. So I just wanted to remind everyone about that. Let Kirk know if you're interested.
Okay, so again, though, I will say we need a presence of our Parks and Rec there with Carter Park, with knowing that next year Summer's End is happening in Carter Park, and here's the plan, here's what it looks like. This will get people excited and focused on this change that we're going to be making.
Absolutely. And today we had our first all hands meeting since Matthew's been appointed city manager. And I did let the staff know that there's this opportunity, and it could end up being a hodgepodge of staff from different departments, doing different various outreach to the community, including someone from Rec or the city promoting Carter Park and that project too. So
yeah, I'll be happy to participate and make some of that happen.
Thanks, Paulette. And that's
we were
all I
hoping
have.
you'd say that, and we expected you'd say that, but love hearing it.
Of course.
We'll make sure our tent gives you the best view of the stage.
Of course.
I'm just curious about the giving future information about Carter Park at the event. Is that something then that the city is going to make materials for? Do we feel like we have the information we need to provide people with information?
We do. We have a lot of visual materials already, and I think the donation policy we need to print it up in a large format and have that available for people to see and to be able to talk about how people can support it and why we need support. So we'll make sure that that information's available, and we'll kind of train people up as they come to help, so they know the right things to say.
Do we have like posters we can give to Aaron for the farmers market with like the summer end logo on it and just kind of the date and time, and we could put it out there? Not flyers, like a stand, like a.
We could do that. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that would be. Go ahead.
I just the two big ones, kind of the size you're talking about, Adam, the big sandwich board ones. I only bought two, and they were inserted into those big belly display trash cans at Mac Dutra. But I can definitely get one. Aaron's doing it every Saturday, right? We'll definitely get one.
Yeah, I think it's a good spot to spread that info, and I just kind of like the design of those signs actually. I think it looks good for the city. It looks good for farmers market. It gets great advertising. It'll hit a bunch of buckets.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Eddie. So that concludes our agenda. Here's what I will kind of leave before we do the last few items. Certainly at our next meeting, we will cover the bell, the Spirit of Life bell, and the plan for that. We'll see what other updates we have for that. Eddie will be stepping up and running these meetings for the foreseeable future. I will be here as much as I can, but my energy is being pulled in a lot of different directions right now. And John, of course, is going to be supporting and providing updates to you as well. But please give Eddie your support and work with him on agenda items. And we're excited for him to have that opportunity to lead this group. And I'll be there in the background, but I will not always be able to attend these meetings going forward. So.
Matthew, did we need to vote on the bill?
No, tonight was just feedback. Next week is when you'll make a recommendation and vote.
Okay.
So, thank you for asking. So with that, are there any report outs from any activities the commissioners have attended or participated in recently?
Well, again, I've been to a lot of concerts in the park, all over, including here in British Columbia. And it's really interesting to see how different cities and organizations do it. I don't know that I have seen in San Mateo County any other city other than ours fund these concerts from the city coffers. All of it everywhere else is supported by businesses and through through something like a Friends of Parks and Rec, that kind of thing is pretty much standard throughout all the. I went to San Mateo, I went to Redwood City, and I went to San Carlos. And so all of it, same story. So I think that's something that should be a future agenda item, actually, to take a look and visit how we do it and how we're going to do it in the future. Let's see, I listened to a great band, like a really great band, and I have to remember what their name is. I know one part of their name is the Chiefs, but there's something else. There's another word in there. And they were like, they're from Santa Cruz, absolutely like terrific, like, rhythm and blues for the most part, but then they get jazzy. So they riff on a song, a tune that everyone knows, but then they also go off and improvise on that. And they just like really cook. And they also know how to talk to the audience.
The Joint Chiefs?
The Joint Chiefs, thank you. The Joint Chiefs. So impressed with them. Really, really good. If we want a great band to open Carter Park, That's the band, okay? The Joint Chiefs. They were fabulous. Okay, I think that's about it. That's been my going around and looking at public art a lot and going to the concerts in the park.
Any other report outs from any other commissioners?
I just have a question. In terms of any stuff that we're doing, like with the volleyball courts, should, like, Matthew, do we need to loop in more people from the city now?
Such as, I'm not
Such as Eddie, if he's kind of taking over some of your roles at Parks and Rec?
Yeah, I think certainly Eddie could be involved. John has been involved. He'll be more involved if we can move things forward with the school. Yeah, I think the key is having that next meeting so that we can bring some information back to this group to discuss. But yeah, I think once we get staffing squared away at the rec center, Eddie could be much more involved in those kinds of projects. So.
Okay, yeah. And also just, I don't know if more people need to be involved with any additional steps we want to take so that next year, when we get the beach courts going, if we need the same type of permit or we can just keep going with that permit or whatever. But I know we had been trying to kind of get them up a little sooner and then had a little bit of permit delay. So just wanting to make sure that I know the right people.
Yeah, no, this year was considered an extension of the first pilot. And the goal, I think, is to actually apply for a 5-year permit so that every year we just schedule it and we install it and we take it down and it's already worked out. John, it looks like John's got some other thoughts.
I just say Eddie and I will work on getting that longer term permit in place to deal with the poplar deal. So do continue to bug us a little bit and ask us and prod us, but we'll work with CDD and let you know when that comes up. And support would be great from the community on that CDP. So we'll work on it and get it there so we can get those set up at the earliest possible date.
Great. That's really it. So, Madam Chair, I'll turn it back over to you if there's anything else, or you can close the meeting.
Sure. Okay. Yep. Then I think, does anyone else have anything?
I just want to tell Matthew, thank you for helping us out for 5 years in this commission, being our compass and our guiding star. We're going to call you if we need you. Yeah.
I agree. I'm very unhappy that you're not going to be at all our meetings.
Yes, I agree.
I'll still be here in and out, but yeah, I've got other commissions now I need to support, and
it makes sense.
One of the big things I'm going to learn in my new role is how to delegate, and I'm grateful for the team that's helping me do that. So,
yeah, congratulations. Except for us.
Yeah, that right.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, well then let's adjourn.
Good night. Thanks.
All right. Goodbye. Good night, everyone.
Night.